I'm Dave, and this is The Stage Page. I've been acting since 1998, so I've done my fair share of auditioning. I've auditioned for children's theater, high school theater, community theater, college theater, professional theater, and I've done group national auditions in LA, New York, and Seattle. So, I figured why not put that experience to use and drop some tips for making better audition monologues. So, let's get to it. Tip number 1 is to ground yourself. Now, going into an audition, you're bound to have some nervous energy. I honestly think that's a good thing. Nerves can be a great source for making a theater piece feel alive. But you gotta make sure that you're harnessing that energy and making it work for you and not against you. So, whether it's in line outside the door, in the bathroom, or in an alley behind the theater, make sure to take a moment to breathe and focus that energy. One thing that works for me is to picture my legs as tree trunks, and instead of stopping at the ground, they're shooting roots far into the ground below me. Now, this helps to still not only my mind, but to give me a sense of stillness that I can take into the audition room. Tip number 2 is to know your stuff. Don't look at this monologue as a singular performance for the casting director, but rather a slice of a full story. Know who you are. Know who you're talking to. Know what you've already gone through up to this point in the play. 9 times out of 10, somebody in the room has probably read or seen the play that your monologue is from. Don't make them question whether or not you've actually read the play. Tip number 3 is to have an objective. This kind of goes hand in hand with tip number 2. Everyone says something in order to achieve something. So what are you trying to achieve with the words that you've chosen to say? And knowing that, how are you saying these words to achieve that goal? Following that line of thought is going to give your monologue focus and layers. Now, this is extra important when you're doing classical work like Shakespeare, whose works some people tend to read out like a town crier without any real emotion or focus. Tip number 4 is enunciate. It seems so simple, but it's incredibly important. You want casting directors to have no doubt that audiences will be able to understand you when you're giving the material from more than a few feet away from them. Doesn't matter what objective you're playing if no one can understand the words you're using. For me, I'd like to do a warm-up where I over-enunciate all the consonants in my monologue. It loosens up your jaw, and it makes speaking the words much easier when you go back to normal emphasis. Tip number 5 is be specific. Are you speaking to a person, a group, yourself, or God? If you're speaking to a person, where are they? Anchor them in a specific place in your reality. Don't act to an empty chair. I like to anchor them in a corner of the room above and behind the audience or casting director. If it's a group, I focus on specific people in that group, changing it up but making sure to never just gaze endlessly back and forth across the room. If it's to yourself, that energy is going to be focused down a little bit, but making sure that it's still going out and not being swallowed up in your actions. And if it's to God, find a specific point in the sky where God is. Now, one last bonus tip that won't apply to every audition is to be coachable. If a director takes the time to give you an adjustment or ask you to try something, show them how easy it is to work with you. Pursue their choice like you made it yourself and make it obvious that you've made the change. Be grateful for their input. They won't waste their time coaching someone they aren't considering hiring. Accept their input graciously and gratefully. And those are my tips for improving your audition monologues. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, I'd love if you'd share it somewhere, and if you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing. I post new videos on Mondays and Fridays, all about the world of theater and its inner workings. Either way, thanks for stopping by, and hopefully I'll see you again on Friday for a new War Stories session.